Every story you have ever loved follows some kind of arc. Western storytelling theory offers several. The three-act structure, setup, confrontation, resolution. The hero's journey, departure, initiation, and then return. Freytag's pyramid, exposition, rise in action, climax, falling action, and then denouement. These are powerful analytical frameworks, and they account for an enormous range of the human narrative experience we've come to enjoy, but they all share a foundational assumption that the primary engine of story itself is conflict. A protagonist encounters an obstacle, the obstacle escalates, the situation resolves, and then new equilibrium is established. The Theopoetecological Narrative Form, or TNF, proposes that conflict driven narrative models leave a large class of human stories inadequately described. Stories about formation, transformation, vocation, grief, healing, and wisdom. Stories that are not primarily asking what will happen, but who is becoming. Stories that follow not the logic of battle, but the logic of growth. And today, we examine that knowledge and that framework in full. Welcome to episode 3 of Theopoetecology. My name is Dennis Matthews, and I'm a student at Liberty University. Today, we're talking about the Theopoetecological Narrative Form, or TNF. Let's start right here at stage 1. Here at stage 1, you'll see seed, the initiation, a calling, a question, a crisis, a symbolic image that generates the story. It is small, unassuming, and you might not even notice upon first reading, but it contains the entire arc and its potential. Biblical resonance, the mustard seed, the parable of the sower, all of these are constitutive of what it means to be in the first stage of the TNF, the seed. The second stage is the root, the hidden formation. This is the hardest stage to dramatize, but it is the most important to sustain. Roots grow in the dark, in the cold, in the seasons where nothing appears to be happening, but everything present is necessary. The desert period, the years of preparation before anything visible occurs. Joseph in prison, the 40 years in the wilderness, 3 days in the tomb. All of these represent the root stage of the TNF. In the next stage, you'll see growth. Transformation becomes visible. Conflict, movement, exploration, outward change. Usually, this is the longest stage of the arc. The key distinction from classical narrative is the fact that growth is not primarily about defeating an obstacle, it is about becoming. The growth is the point. Next, we begin to see fruit. The manifestation of meaning, realization, reconciliation, wisdom, sacrifice, and redemption. The visible outcome of everything that was formed beneath the surface. The fruit is the reason why the seed was planted, but it could not have existed without the root and the growth. Lastly, you'll see harvest, and this is where the TNF is unique. In linear narrative models, the story ends when the conflict is resolved. In the TNF, the story ends with the planting of new seeds. The harvest produces more seeds. The meaning extends beyond itself into community, generation, and legacy. Harvest itself is generational. An actionable representation of the TNF in real life is a moment in time where passers-by have interactions or altercations amongst you. The result of that moment leaves a seed or an impression upon you. How you feel and how you develop your understanding of that can be the root stage. After that, a growth state occurs. How you develop your understanding of the people around you, your bias, and your perspectives of humanity can grow from there. After which, a fruit forms, a full representation of how you see humanity. That manifests itself in how you act, how you treat individuals, and how you respond to certain stimuli. From there, that understanding can be passed on to future generations, children, or even those that one teaches. From here, let's look at a biblical example. In Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 32, we'll see the example of the prodigal son in this parable. The seed is the younger son's demand for his inheritance, which is reckless. It is morally ambiguous and small in the telling, but containing of the entire arc and its potential. The root is the time in the far country in the pig pen. The text tells us that this happens, but it doesn't dramatize it. He came to himself. That phrase, he came to himself, is pointing at interior root work that is happening beneath the surface of the story. The growth, the decision to return, and that homeward journey. This is repentance in action, the first visible emergence of transformation. The fruit, this was the father running down the road, that feast, the robe and the ring, the excessive, uneconomic, and embarrassing grace. And the harvest? The parable ends with the elder brother standing outside, the father's invitation still extended. This parable's harvest is deliberately incomplete. It is offered to the reader. You are the harvest. What will you do with this information? The TNF was birthed from a desire to see further depth in character development, more than just seeing a character rise to the occasion, but seeing one that's willing to be broken and the steps necessary to develop personality, traits, characteristics, and hope over time that are useful in future generations that can help others. The TNF goes through a story arc of 5 stages: the seed, the root, the growth, the fruit, and then the harvest. All of these stages work together to produce a narrative experience that hasn't been seen before. Harvest produces new seeds. The TNF is a cycle and not a line. As it is written, there is nothing new under the sun. The regenerative logic of ecological systems and the way that theological meaning actually moves through generations. This is the next episode, The 8 Lenses, the analytical method for reading any text, any image, any landscape, and any imagery through the framework of theopoetecology. I'll see you there.